What began as a dream development is now a true medical city sprouting from acreage near Orlando International Airport. Today on Metro Center Outlook, we'll hear from one of the people who helped make that dream a reality.
This program is made possible by funding from the UCF Metropolitan Center for Regional Studies, where government leaders, business executives, and academic experts come together to discuss major issues facing the state of Florida.
Hello everyone. Welcome to UCF Metro Center Outlook. I'm Diane Trees, Director of the UCF Metropolitan Center for Regional Studies. The seeds for a medical city were planted back in 2005 when Tavistock was looking to develop property in southeast Orlando. At the same time, the University of Central Florida was looking for a way to expand the school's research capacity. Now the area boasts the UCF College of Medicine, the Sanford Burnham Medical Research Institute, and soon a Nemours Children's Hospital and a VA Medical Center. And that's just the beginning. In the middle of all of this development is Rasesh Thakkar, Senior Managing Director for Tavistock Group. Sesh, thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
I'd like to take you back to the beginning. I understand you were having a conversation with Dr. John Hitt, who's the president of the University of Central Florida, and the conversation was centered around the need for a biomedical science school in the area. How did that blossom into what we have now at Medical City?
Well, you know, Diane, the dream originally started with Governor Bush. He had a budget surplus, wouldn't we love to be back to those days, of hundreds of millions of dollars. And he had a dream of diversifying the state's economy. And that's where the concept of life science or biotech clusters got born. And Orlando, we all made a run for the Scripps Research Institute. They chose Palm Beach, so we came in second place. That doesn't get you much, but we learned a lot of lessons. One thing we did is we never took our eye off of the possibility that a life sciences or biotech cluster represented for the region. It, in effect, really could have been the start or spawn of a sea change. So I was on the UCF Foundation board at the time, and President Hitt gave us a speech on his dream about a medical school and the difference that it could make for the university. And that's when the light bulbs started going off for me. I sit on the board of some biotech companies in San Diego, and I saw the importance that medical schools have within a life sciences cluster. So with the Scripps episode behind us, it really made us think of, well, maybe we should have the medical school anchor and be the first partner in a medical city. So President Hitt and I had a meeting, I still remember it, and President Hitt, really being the visionary that he is, we agreed in that first meeting to partner up. He had planned originally for the medical school to be on the main campus of UCF.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in fact, they already had the site plan and the layout, and they were going to start the construction drawings. But the problem was that once it would have been built, they were basically out of land. So they couldn't have used it for a springboard for all of the other things that can happen.
So you had a vision at that point of an expanded far beyond just the medical school.
Well, so when President Hitt and I spoke about the impact that a life sciences cluster can have on the region, that's what came out of that meeting was the fact that UCF would be in the center of the medical city, would have a comprehensive health sciences cluster or campus, and the medical school would be the focal point of UCF's campus there. And that's how we ended up on the 50-acre land grant, being the lead donor with $12.5 million in cash in a challenge grant to the community. But the whole impetus behind it all was the fact that UCF and the medical school could benefit from all the research that could take place around that entire campus. And it's proven to be true.
I think that, I was reading that a medical school brings in 3 times the amount of research money than a university that does not have a medical school associated. So that alone is a tremendous boost with things.
I was stunned by that fact. In fact, it then really points to what I think will be the differentiator for the great universities in the future. The differentiator for me is going to be research. And everything that research can spawn from it, the royalty streams, the patents, the inventions, all the discoveries, all of those kinds of things. And I think that's what's going to differentiate universities, because they've all figured out how to cater to the alumni base, the student base, right, and grow from that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about those economic ramifications.
Sure.
With the end of 2011, we'll have more than $2 billion in construction in Medical City. What are those ramifications, and how does that ripple effect work to spread it out with such an impact across Central Florida?
Well, Diane, economists have talked about the billions of dollars in annual economic impact that the cluster does have today and will continue to have and grow. My eyes glaze over when I hear those kinds of figures. For me, I like to keep life simple, and I just focus on what we have there today committed. What we have committed is about 5,000 jobs, so that's not an if, maybe, or but. They are absolutely coming, and some of them are already there. And then you ask yourself the question, well, with 5,000 jobs and all of the other things that brings with it, what else? Will there be more than just that? And I think it doesn't take a scientist to figure out that there will be more. All these folks need homes to stay in. I think it will be a real destination with the airport right next door. So the hotels, and in fact we're building 2 new hotels now. All of the support and ancillary services, from banking, your retail, your restaurants, your coffee shops, your dry cleaners, and on. People can talk about the economic impact, but Diane, for me, what gives me the goosebumps every day is the real life stories that you see and hear about day to day that happen in the community as a result of this. When you have thousands of people in these types of professions, the life sciences, healthcare, education, research, biotech, coming into the area, it's really an army of intelligentsia that's moving here. It's a sea change that's happening. And along with that, you have sophisticated, educated folks who are demanding as well. But I think that helps us raise the bar on everything in the area. I think they demand a great educational system, and I think it's good for the schools in the region. They're givers. They get involved. They get involved in the PTAs. They get involved in the charities, the Arts Center, philanthropically, and all those kinds of things. And they're already making a huge difference in even the science programs in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And when you see that kind of a difference permeating itself every day in the community, that's what gives me the goosebumps.
So
and
it's
that is priceless.
It's not just the economic impact. You look at it as far more. And when you're talking about stories, you, at the age of 28, were diagnosed with lymphoma with only a 30% chance of survival. You beat that with chemotherapy. Can you talk about that a little bit? Obviously that's affected how you've embraced this project.
Well, it's 30%, it was 36%. Had a little bit more of a chance, but but
still not good.
No. But I'll tell you, I was fortunate at a pretty young age to truly experience the difference that science can make in a person's life. Had I had the type of cancer that I had 3 years earlier, the chemotherapy regimen included a derivative of mustard gas, which would have been a lot harder on my system, and the cure rates weren't as good. So I got to experience firsthand the true difference that science and scientists can make. And it's that sort of thing that makes you realize that what we're trying to do out there every day can make a difference. It's what makes us bound out of bed. It's really exciting. So it is personal, but it's also personal in another way, Diane. UCF being my alma mater, I think that the university gave me so much that in some small way, if we can make a difference for the university, it would be amazing.
Well, we're very grateful. You talk about the differences that it made you personally. You have been a pivotal player in bringing 3 major economic drivers here. That's the UCF College of Medicine, Sanford Burnham, and the coming VA Medical Center. What attributes do you feel that you bring that cultivates success like this?
Well, it's very kind of you to say that. You know, first it takes a tremendous amount of work. Any one of those deals could have fallen apart for the smallest reason. You know, there's 100 or more factors that come into play: politics, finances, and all those things. So we just every day go at it like pit bulls. We don't let go of the bone. We never give up. And you know, I think another thing that's really been one of our keys to success is collaboration. I think the term gets overused, Diane. It's a bit trite, but I really believe that the secret and the magic for us, it should be in our very ethos, is collaboration. And that's what's helped us. If you think about the medical school effort, I think it galvanized the community in a very unique and neat way. I haven't seen the community come together as much as they did as during the med school effort. Okay. And then you talk about the VA. Now you talk about collaborations that take place. First, it's wonderful for the medical school, for the VA center to be right next to it. We custom designed a parcel, and it's great for the VA. The doctors that they're going to get that will treat this nation's veterans, they believe are going to be a lot more sophisticated in their ability, because if you think about who they can recruit, now that doctor that's working at the VA can go right across the street and teach if they want to in the medical school, or they can go down the block and they can do research on cutting-edge programs and discoveries. It's every doctor's dream is to do all those things, and in fact, at all the hospitals, at all of the research centers and the medical school, the type of dynamic that will take place and the collaboration that will be there, I think, is unequaled.
So there's a great synergy with all that's going on.
It is a great synergy, and you think about it, you know, look at the University of Florida is coming, and they're going to be right next to the UCF Health Sciences campus. The way that President Machen and President Hitt have embraced each other for this effort, I think is phenomenal. Talk about collaboration, right? It's historic, but they're all going to work together, and I think it's going to be to everyone's benefit, and everyone realizes that. And the larger this thing gets, I think that's when it being a real destination, the true impact of the airport being right next door is really going to come into play. So phase 2 and phase 3, the sequels are coming, and we're excited.
You mentioned you are a UCF graduate, and you joined Tavistock in 1987. And I read where you said that you were traveling the world looking for opportunities. What brought you back here to Central Florida?
You know, I think I suffered from the syndrome, the grass is greener on the other side. And I really wanted to experience what it was like living in other countries. Well, first of all, I was born and was brought up in Africa. So I enjoyed traveling anyways, but I'm fortunate with the Tavistock group. I've lived in South America and in Europe. But we finished our projects in Europe, and I thought, you know, where do I want to live now. And I felt like I wanted to come back home. I wanted to put some roots down. What's not to love? You know, Florida, particularly Orlando, is a great place. And I think the quality and standard of life, after living in Buenos Aires and in London for a few years, I think people really underestimate how good they have it here.
How wonderful it is. Well, you've traveled, lived, worked all over the world, so you obviously have a very international perspective on things. Okay. Do you bring some aspects of that to Medical City? What do you see as possibilities that we might be developing international ties as the region grows?
Well, listen, and I think it goes without saying, we live in a global world now. I think that Orlando can truly take advantage of where it sits. It really is a gateway. It has one of the finest airports in the world, I believe. You know, it's the #1 tourist destination in the world. It has an image and a perception that's recognized in every corner of the planet. And so as Lake Nona, Medical City, the region gets more sophisticated in what exists here, I do think that there will absolutely be an international component that we can all tap into. If you look at Miami as an example, Miami is really a gateway to South America. And I think Orlando can have its own niche. And wouldn't it be neat if that niche is really healthcare and life sciences and biotech oriented? So, in fact, President Hitt, Dean German, and several others, we focused on that and have made a couple of trips, actually, overseas to partner up with other institutions. I think it's only a matter of time.
When you talk about a niche here, Central Florida Research Park, there's a large modeling and simulation cluster in existence. How do you see partnerships and ties with Medical City and the modeling and simulation industry?
You know, it's already happened. I think when people understand the true impact of the $1 billion in construction and equipment cost at the VA Medical Center, you understand how large that facility is and the impact that it will have. Well, the reason that the VA and the medical school, we've talked about, you know, the benefits and the synergies that they can draw upon being right next to each other. You know, the U.S. government put out an RFP to select the nation's site for medical simulation and training for the nation's veterans and within the VA centers and their staff. Orlando was never on the radar screen before this VA center started being built. In fact, it was a foregone conclusion. People thought that it would go to places like Palo Alto or Boston, where they have great clusters and things taking place there. But once this VA Medical Center started being built and people saw the promise, all the teams got together, UCF, the VA Medical Center, a couple of others, and we put together, I think, some really good presentations, and Orlando got chosen. So Lake Nona and the VA Medical Center there is going to be the national site in the VA system for medical simulation and training. So it's already started to make a difference. I think also if you look at what's happening in the UCF Medical School, you know, we give quite a few tours to dignitaries and folks visiting throughout the whole medical city. And the type of collaborations that are taking place between the engineering teams at UCF, computer science, and now the medical school, the health sciences programs, are truly leading edge.
I saw that there was proposed legislation for centers of excellence in medical simulation, and I understand that that is a field that could totally erupt in economic benefits again, and the benefits to people with the different types of surgeries. It's a fascinating thing, and another aspect of a partnership with a cluster that's developing here as well.
Listen, it's another reason and thing that will make Orlando a richer, more sophisticated, better place to live.
Let's talk about Lake Nona, which is a multifaceted, master-planned community. And with Medical City growing, with Tavistock's generosity and donating over 100 acres, more than $30 million, there are other aspects in that multifaceted development, commercial and housing. With the downturn with the economy, can you give us an update on the progress of the other aspects? And you talk about the quality of living.
Well, you know, in finance class, it seems like they only deal with the graphs that do this and go up, right? We have to remember, we're in a marathon, not a sprint. And so we are absolutely going to come across a couple of different or more economic cycles. I've always thought it's so important because of that to select the anchors and the right partners. And we have anchors and partners that have great resources. In fact, even in this downturn, these anchors and partners, none of them have abandoned their projects. They've taken advantage of what's happening. You have to find the silver lining in everything. And construction costs are a lot lower, so they've gotten the benefit of that as an example. Listen, it has absolutely slowed down some of the development that otherwise I believe would have occurred. But as I said, there's a silver lining in every cloud. These projects in 2012 is a big year for Lake Nona, when we'll have thousands of new employees hitting the ground, all trained, ready to go. So as we speak right now, in the community, there are recruiting efforts going on to hire thousands of people. On top of that, the day that the Nemours Children's Hospital and the VA Medical Center's doors open, there will be over 5,000 daily patient visits.
It's amazing.
So if you think about it, all of the families and patients they'll be visiting, over 5,000 a day, and all that will bring with it. So I really believe this is phase one. As I've said before, we hope the sequel is even better.
So look at it as a long-term, long-range project. You've known and worked with Joe Lewis for many years. He's the founder and the owner for Tavistock.
Sure.
How does he view his investment in Medical City?
You know, he's excited about it. And I have to say, Diane, to have a person like Joe Lewis in our community, it only leads to good things for the community. We could never have accomplished what we've done at Medical City without the largesse and the philanthropy of the Lewis Family Foundation. The Lewis family has given away and gifted over 100 acres and over $30 million of cash. So once you look at the value of both the cash and the land, it's worth, they've given away over $100 million to just spawn and seed what hopefully will make a difference in the region. Joe is very excited about it, and he's committed. He's committed to this dream.
As you are.
Well, look, we're just thankful that we have the resources to be able to make a difference. As I said, as a developer or a development company, we could have never achieved what we've achieved. So I'm just thankful, and the Lewis family's committed.
Sesh, thank you for your time today and being on the show. I've been talking with Rasesh Thakkar, Senior Managing Director for Tavistock Group. We'd like to know what you think about the Medical City and its potential future in Central Florida. Share your views on our new interactive website. I'm Diane Trees. Thank you for joining me on UCF Metro Center Outlook.
This program was made possible by funding from the Metropolitan Center for Regional Studies, where government leaders, business executives, and academic experts come together to discuss major issues facing the state of Florida.